Hope you got a cup of coffee or a little treat. Okay. You know, there are many companies here and some financial organizations and boards and so forth. One of the questions that comes up all the time in terms of acquisition of new goods, products, services is, do we develop inside or do we go out and buy it on the outside? And it's usually a combination. With us today is Wael, who's on the board for Revance and has certainly been a part of a lot of acquisitions. And also John Parrish, who I've known for years, and he also has been involved in a lot of M&A work and acquisitions and internal development. So I'm going to first talk to Wael. Tell me, how do you go about evaluating and obtaining new technologies, goods, services, and so forth?
So I'm going to give you, let you in on a little secret. I have a crystal ball on my desk
That's
every
funny.
day.
I got one of those too.
Yeah, we look into it and we get all the answers. No, I mean, you get when you talk to Nadeem this morning, you asked him kind of like how we view the market, where the market is going, what are we excited about. So we always start there and then start looking for solutions that would fit what I would say the risk profile that we're looking for. What stage is it at? How validated? How accessible, etc. And then we go from there.
Have you used outside firms in your analysis, in your assessment of
we
both the market and the technology?
Yeah, we typically we want to do a lot of the groundwork ourselves because I think there is a lot of value in doing the work yourself and the investigation. You get a deeper knowledge, but typically we've used firms on occasion to do a macro, or when we are in diligence, we do use third parties for confirmatory diligence.
And at Hildred, do you typically do this at a board level, or do you have a separate section of M&A within the board?
No, we have a team. So Hildred is a healthcare focused fund. Today we have about $4 billion under management. And we have a professional team of about 25 individuals. We do the sourcing, the diligence. So this is very much we're rolling up our sleeves and we're in the trenches.
Okay. What excites you the most right now?
Look, Revance has been...
In aesthetics.
Yes. Revance has been a great story for us. We first got involved with what was Crown Labs a few years ago. We partnered with Jeff Bedard. The company at the time was had really good foundation, but was small. Revenues of 30 million about, and we're knocking on $1 billion today. So that makes us very excited. Excited to partner with Nadeem and Connor and the team. Our products are great. We're counting our blessings when, it's great, nothing to complain about when you have a product, you're growing double digit. But we're excited about the pipeline too, both organic, we're working on some things within the company, and we're looking at some, to acquire some new technologies. So excited about that.
Is this the first time you've been in the aesthetic space, personally?
Yes, but we've been now in this for about 7 years. But yes, Crown was my first foray into aesthetics.
Okay. John. Now, John works with Radigan and Patrick, and he's at Merz. And Merz is one of our sponsors also. I want to thank Merz for helping us so much, along with Revance. So thank you, John. And John and I have worked together, and he's looked at a number of products and so forth, along with me and others. Tell me, how do you go about analyzing for Merz?
Probably I'd echo a lot of what Wael said, but what I'd add on top, we have, at Merz, we have very specific BD criteria, what works for us, what does not, right? So, for example, we're not a surgical company, right? So we would, implants, that sort of thing is sort of out of scope for us. We're very focused on minimally invasive, procedure-based technologies. So that's really the sort of Merz strategy. And then it's kind of what Wael said, look at emerging technologies, new things that are interesting, new areas. I think regenerative aesthetics for us, like a lot of people, is kind of the new frontier. It means a lot of different things, and you go to MCAS now, and like everything suddenly has become regenerative, which is interesting. So it's kind of sifting through a lot of things, and I think you heard from the clinician panel too. I would totally agree with the sentiment there. There's all these things, exosomes and polynucleotides, interesting. Needs maturing though, I think, right? And so we're kind of keeping an eye on that, waiting for these segments to mature. Maybe we can play a hand in helping them mature. So I think that's a real area of further exploration for us.
Are you developing products within the four walls of Merz?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. So we're fully integrated. We have a substantial R&D budget. In our case, not only on the injectable side, but energy-based side. We just built a huge new lab down in Raleigh to focus on EBD development, both off therapy and for new brands. So yes, absolutely, we're very active, internal and external.
And I know you've been working on Ultherapy and Ulthera and updating it and so forth, and that was all internal. Yep. But I'm also aware of some external investments that you've made. I won't reveal them because I'm not sure if it's public or not. But
I can reveal.
You can?
Yes,
okay,
it's
good.
public, so
because
it's
we just had somebody up here who just
Yes.
spoke, and maybe you could elaborate on that or not. It's up
Yeah,
to you.
a couple interesting things. So if you know, we're an investor in Acorn, Drew and the Acorn team. Interestingly enough, came out of this meeting. So it's a good plug for this meeting.
So I'm going to take credit for that.
Yeah.
They put in $5.7 million in Acorn. Where's Drew? Yeah, I went and got Drew, and Radigan said, okay, I'm in. And it happened right here.
A little longer than that, but yeah. No, we met to be totally transparent.
Here.
Yeah, we met in the Miami meeting some years ago, and Drew and Will actually grabbed me in the hallway and like insisted that we talk, and I was like, okay. And the more and more we kind of learned about it, really interesting. I think it's a good example of the space we're interested in because, not to pitch them too much, but it's regenerative and personalized, right? And so these are interesting areas. They're early stage in the company, but that's an area we want to learn more about, figure better to let them go. So we're a strategic investor, and it's been a really fruitful partnership so far. We've learned a lot. I think they've learned a lot from having our participation in the company.
Would Hildred ever consider an investment like that, where you're putting some seed money into another company?
Not
or do you just acquire everything?
Yeah, no, not at the fund level. At the fund level, we're now essentially a buyout fund, which is basically we take a controlling interest in new companies, but at the portfolio level. So Hildred, at the fund level, no. Revance, yes.
Got it.
And that's partly how we built the platform. When we took a controlling interest in the company, in the first year, we did a number of things. We acquired products that were. That's how we got Panoxyl, and for example, it was a part of a divestiture from what was then GlaxoSmithKline. Mm-hmm. Helion today. We acquired the company that was behind SkinPen. It was a lot smaller at the time. But we also made investments in a number of technologies where we didn't acquire them. We invested or did licenses and things like that. And some of these, over time, basically transitioned into something else. But yes, at the portfolio level, definitely.
Okay. Hey, John, there's a number of entrepreneurs here in the audience with startups, they've a year or less. We're going to see some more and hear some more at Shark Tank. What advice do you have for them in terms of coming to you personally or Merz collectively, corporately?
Yeah, I think a couple things that might seem obvious, but yet somehow when we have these discussions, they get missed. I think having a sober assessment of the market potential. So, it's like you get to slide 2 and they're telling you this is going to be $1 billion opportunity in 5 years, and you just lose credibility right away, right? And so you'd be surprised how often we still sort of see, unrealistic expectations. I think the other thing is I've done this over the years that is a tricky area. It's kind of the murky topics: regulatory, manufacturing, right, cost of goods, right? It's things that are maybe not as sexy as like what's the market potential, but super critical in how a business case works, right? Because we've looked at things and it sounds really interesting, and then all of a sudden you get to, it's a device and you get to the cost of goods and it's like, well, we think we can make it for, $30,000 a unit. And it's like, oof, that's like, it's hard to make much gross margin off something like that. So I think really focus on sort of all that stuff, scalability, like that I call it sort of back office things or back end things, but super, super critical in building business case that we need to build internally to bring something into our portfolio.
How about you, Wael? Any advice, sage advice?
Yeah, I would echo what John said. I would say sometimes the hardest part about getting a deal done is that the counterparty may not be realistic about, not that they're, there may be agreement on ultimately what that value is, but it's a long road, sometimes to get there. And one has to take into account the practicalities of things, as John said. We heard, for example, today a lot of buzz around regenerative, and there are a lot of interesting technologies. But I think everybody is operating in this, what I would say, gray regulatory zone, right? Like this 361.
Sure.
So, FDA comes down and says, you guys have drugs, and you need, so you have to put that in the back of your mind. Cost of goods, things like that. So I would say just be realistic and look for where you think your best partner is, right? People look for different things. Sometimes people are looking, I don't care, just whoever writes me the bigger check, I'll take it, and I don't care about what happens later. Okay, that's one thing. Sometimes people are looking, no, I want my technology, I want to be involved, et cetera. And in that sense, who writes you the bigger check may not be the best partner. You make sure you feel comfortable with the ecosystem that you're putting your technology.
Thank you. Any other final comments?
No, I mean, I think in general, it's good to see so many people here and so many different companies. And, I think I'd love to get in a time machine or get your crystal ball in 10 years, right, to see. There hasn't been a lot of like new disruptive thing, or, toxins, HAs, biostimulators, but sort of what's going to be that next generation of products, and there's a lot of things I think, as we've discussed, sort of kicking around, and so it'll be really fascinating to see if some of them emerge and become very like mainstream global market segments that we'll all participate in. So I'm excited for that. Excited for the future of our industry. I was just telling somebody, like, this is a great place to be in. We have all the future in the world if we do it the right way. So I'm very, very excited for that, and I know Merz is as well.
Well, if there are any questions, we have a few minutes left. Anyone have any questions? You want to take your product to Merz or to Revance? Okay, well, thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Grant.